Bounce is a AI consumer research platform. We build technology for large consumer-facing brands like Coca-Cola, Diageo, what research you should run, what methodology you should use, what questionnaire you should use, what audience you should go to.
Should I get on board?
Yeah, well, you get incentives, right? There's rewards there that are available to you. We discovered was that there was a big problem with engagement, so we opted to try and solve that. We got that up to, instead of 2 to 6%, we got it up to 70-80%. I do think if you're trying to make anything new or big or difficult, you need to be in an office with people. You need to have those ideas flowing and bouncing off each other. But when you're executing, I don't think you need to be in the office.
Co-founder Charlie, so he's moved over. You guys have set up a London office. What is the plan there?
Get it to a point where it's self-sustaining and can run by itself. At some point in the future, he'll either continue on there or move to the US. So if we can resolve all three of them, I think it'll transform the industry and consumer-facing brands on the whole.
Ronan, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I've been trying for a while, but I finally got you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hard to nail down myself and Charlie, I think.
Yeah, a long time coming. For the listeners, obviously, who don't know, could you tell us a bit about Bounce Insights and your role there as a co-founder?
Yeah, for sure. So Bounce is a AI consumer research platform. So we build technology for large consumer-facing brands like Coca-Cola, Diageo, Pernod Ricard, these types of guys to run end-to-end research. So not just once you have a survey ready to go, getting it to people's hands, actually from I have a business problem to I need to make a decision as quickly as possible.
Okay. Well, I think as we all know, bad research has a cost. So how does Bounce Insights solve that?
Yeah, so we leverage our technology and also AI to recommend what research you should run, what methodology you should use, what questionnaire you should use, what audience you should go to, and turn that around in less than an hour with our research leads and our AI technology. And then we get it live, which normally has a turnaround of about 24 hours, and then we use AI to analyze the results as well. So we pull out those real key insights that you need to answer your business problem. If I'm Coca-Cola and I want to increase the price of Coke Zero, I need to know how that's going to affect my brand. Our idea is that within a day, you can know what the impact will be in the market.
Okay, so I can see exactly from Coca-Cola's point of view why they need it. But let's say as a consumer, Martin, why should Martin download the Bounce Insights app? Why should I get on board?
Yeah, well, you get incentives, right? There's rewards there that are available to you. We incentivize really well compared to the rest of the market research companies because we believe that, well-paid, well-incentivized people give more attention, they give more care when they're giving their responses, and they're more likely to stay on the panel as well. So we have, two costs with our panel. One is the incentives that we give out to people, and two is recruitment. So if we can keep people engaged, then that means that we don't have to recruit as many people, the quality is higher, and people are happier.
Okay, great idea. So how do you finish computer science in Trinity College and have the brainwave and think I want to transform consumer research and start tomorrow? How does that go about?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I actually wasn't finished yet. I was in my final year and I ran into a mate of mine, Josh Stafford, who's one of the co-founders in the business, in the labs. And he was like, listen, there's these two lads and they have this idea. I think we should work on it with them. It was like happy days. So Brian and Charlie had this idea for a market research platform and what we call the triangle, where we were going to connect stores, which, wanted to give out incentives to people so that they would come and get footfall, like a coffee shop or whatever. We had respondents who wanted to get rewards in those coffee shops, and then we had brands who wanted information from those respondents. So we were trying to link everything up. And the lads came to me in late October, and we chatted about it a bit, and then bought in and decided to start working full-time from January 2nd. So actually Charlie's birthday, we were in the glass rooms in Trinity. For anybody who's in Trinity, they know that they're bleak, dark places underground. But yeah, we were working full-time from then, myself and the four other lads.
Very good. So when you look at Bounce now and you look at the idea that you guys had when you met all that time ago, is it completely different? Has there been so many different iterations of what the company wants to achieve?
Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot of evolution to it. We initially started out with the brand focus, right, and selling to brands, and that was going okay. And then what we discovered was that there was a big problem with engagement in the industry. So if you send out 100 invitations to a survey, 2 to 6 people will complete them. Right, that's a big problem for cost. That's a big problem for speed. So we opted to try and solve that. That's why we built the mobile app.
Yeah.
And we got that up to, instead of 2 to 6%, we got it up to 70-80%.
Jeez.
That was phenomenal. We were like, we're on to one, lads. We're going to the moon. This is it. we started trying to sell it to market research agencies, and they were like, actually, we've started using outsourced panel primarily instead of owning our own panels, and they've kind of moved away from that. And we established that with that business model, we would have a set of customers, but they were small in number, and like the contract sizes were high, but we didn't have access to them. So at the same time, we were also working with Diageo and Tesco primarily in Ireland. And we pivoted to work with them instead. So we decided to co-create the platform with them and understand their problems to solve for.
Okay. So it was a long path to get there, but you achieved product market fit and attracted these big brands. So was it very much build it first, then sell it?
Yeah, so I don't think you ever achieve product market fit. You're like constantly striving for product market fit because your product changes, but the market changes as well, right? Like your competitors change, what the demands of the market are changing. So you never fully get there, but you're constantly striving for it, and you hone in and you get closer to it. We basically established that there was a need from brands in Ireland for the type of work that we were doing, which was that end-to-end that I was talking about. So getting from business question to decision as fast as possible. They had options with traditional research agencies where, they could run end-to-end research where they just chuck the problem at the research agency, but it was going to take them 4 weeks to turn around, and it was going to be incredibly expensive. The research agencies do fantastic work, but it was just too slow for them. And then they had self-service platforms where you could do all the work yourself, but it was incredibly expensive internally because your team was doing the time. And also there was risks of biases and also of lower quality research with either people who didn't have the time or didn't have the training to conduct it properly. So we started filling that gap where we were like, we can do 80 or 90% of what a research agency can do, but we can do it at the speed and the cost of a self-service platform. And that's what got the companies really excited.
Very good. And I'm really intrigued about, obviously, dynamics of the founding team. Did it just happen that, let's say Charlie's good at one thing, you're good at another thing, you could play into each other's strengths, you're probably more technical and come from a computer science background, or did you almost kind of seek each other out for that?
Yeah. So I know Charlie and Brian were looking for technical co-founders to come in, so that's why they brought in myself and Josh and Brandon. But then the roles adapt and evolve as you go. We started out with like a really flat structure, and we still do, to be honest, have a very flat structure, but different responsibilities evolved and different like skill sets started to show and interests what people had. So I kind of moved quite quickly into the CTO role. So I was managing the product side of things, the tech side of things, and then about 2 years ago, Charlie and I moved into co-CEO roles together. And at that point, I kind of took responsibility for finance, and I'd had a hand in strategy for the whole time, but then started leading the strategy with Charlie as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey to get through all the skill sets.
A lot of self-awareness, obviously know where you should be in the company. And would you be aware, as the company grows, you go from kind of seed round and Series A, Series B. Do you think it'll get to a stage where, you need to bring in experience from someone coming from a larger company background?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it varies, right? We've recently brought in Rob Garley, who's our Chief Commercial Officer. He's a background in Meta and in Google as well. He also had his own company for a while, so he definitely has big tech experience. Right now, I am really enjoying the work, and so is Charlie. And we're buzzing every day when we go in, and we feel like we have the skills to achieve it. In 10 years' time, if we're a 1,000-person company, it's a completely different ballgame, and we could love it or we could hate it. It's hard to know, but we're bought in on the mission and we're loving it right now.
Yeah. And there's obviously going to be challenges, and there has been challenges. What would be some of the biggest challenges you've encountered when it comes to building the company?
Yeah, I think there's big mistakes that we've made in the past. One being build it and they will come. Like people talk about that a lot, right? Like I personally built a lot of tech that we basically set fire to.
Yeah, they never came.
Yeah, exactly. It still hurts a little bit, but it hurts more because it's your own fault, right?
Yeah.
I think the main challenge for us has been getting customers to co-create with us. When we've nailed that, it's been unbelievable, the growth and the progression that we've had with product market fit and revenue and team size and the abilities of the product. When we don't have customers to co-create with us, then we're kind of shooting in the dark, we're making guesses, it's super difficult. So having companies like Diageo, like Coca-Cola, like Tesco to constantly ask questions of and understand their needs have been the real key.
Okay, and you attracted some big hitters when it comes to angel investors, the likes of Garrett Lamb, ex-Meta. David Shackleton, Ding. Money aside, how important is it to have the experience and their advice to lean on when it comes to growing a company from such an early stage?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Particularly having like a diverse group of investors. We've been very lucky in the shareholder groups that we have that a lot of them are past founders or are very entrepreneurially minded. So having somebody you can pick up the phone to and go, listen, David, we're talking to this company. They might be looking at acquiring us. Like, how have you dealt with that before? Listen, Gareth, we're doing a go-to-market in the UK or in the US. What should we be looking at? Can we test this against you? So phenomenal. I mean, Gareth comes in every quarter and does a session with us and basically rips us apart for 3 hours, and then we go away and we do our homework. And then David is more of a personal mentor to me, so he's been great on the tech leadership side.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then it attracts people, like as you say, a big hire like Rob, and when they see who's either on the board or who's advising or who's invested in the company, it must be a massive benefit.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely a vote of confidence. A lot of people see a funding round like a big win.
Yeah.
We're not really like that. I kind of see it like a big debt that we have to repay.
Yeah.
You've taken this money on from these people and they put their faith in you, and you then need to take responsibility for that and turn it into an outcome. So I'm more of a celebrate when the outcome comes as opposed to when the money comes.
Yeah.
Sort of guy.
That's one thing that really intrigued me from meeting yourself, that I meet early stage founders all the time, and when the VCs come knocking at the door, it's like, yes, we've made it, or we're going to make it. Where speaking to yourself and knowing a bit about Bounce Insights, you've taken on angel investors, but you haven't taken any VC money to date. Why is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, a number of different things, right? Like opportunity, right? So there's network available to you in different areas, so that gives you options. The other thing is VC deals tend to be more complicated for a number of reasons. Their model is more aggressive, I would say, than what the average founder would be looking for. For example, they need to invest in 10 companies that each have a 1 in 10 chance of 20xing, and then one of them will do fantastically well, and then the other 9 will blow up or middle or end. And at the stage that we were at, we were talking to the VCs and it made sense, but we were also looking at private angels and bringing in some of that more advisor type money as well. So not opposed to the VC model. I mean, when it makes sense for the founders and for the VCs, absolutely. And do I see that in our future? Almost definitely. Just the scale of money that we'd be looking to raise and the scale of vision that we have. You're going to need some venture money, but there are other options available, I think, that people don't always see, because there are plenty of people in Ireland who are entrepreneurially minded and want to invest in early stage companies and get bought in on the vision, who will take, decently sized bets with their own personal money.
Yeah. Angel investing, it's something that, if I spoke to my parents or grandparents, it's not known to a lot of people, unless obviously, you're loaded or you have friends who have done it before. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's super high risk. I have started thinking about dabbling in angel investing. I haven't done it yet myself personally, but the first thing that you have to understand is odds are you're going to lose all your money.
Yeah.
So if you're an angel investor, you're really in it for the love of it and wanting to work with and be close to companies and feel part of the success. So it's not a good financial decision. It's really, really hard to beat the market as an angel investor.
Yeah.
I mean,
1 in 14 or something.
Exactly. Yeah. One might come off and you do fantastically well out of it, but odds are you're probably going to lose all your money.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why a lot of people don't do it, because it takes time and effort and care, and you need to want to be a part of that journey as opposed to just somewhere to put your money.
Yeah. You're probably a safer bet just investing in the S&P 500.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And obviously your co-founder Charlie, so he's moved over. You guys have set up a London office. What is the plan there? What's the plan of attack?
Yeah, for sure. So Charlie's over there and he's there to set up our London office, right? So get it to a point where it's self-sustaining and can run by itself. And then at some point in the future, he'll either continue on there or move to the US and do a similar thing, right? Up in the air, but the US is definitely in our sights. And I really feel that the best way to break into a market is to have a founder on the ground with people with industry experience from the area there as well, because I mean, nothing compares to a founder's energy and understanding of their product and what they're achieving for customers, but also having people who can open doors in that industry, in that country, make a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. And it's tried and tested. And, you know, you've seen obviously the results here in Ireland. As you follow that path to scalability and grow and expand, obviously there'll be remote working, there'll be coming into an office, especially when selling. Some people want people in the office at their desk selling all the time. What's your view on it when it comes to remote working versus obviously going into an office?
Yeah, I think it's I've multiple thoughts on this, right? So one is from a personal standpoint, like as an individual, having the ability to work from home from time to time is incredibly valuable and helpful. You know, sometimes you just need to do your washing or, you know, make the dinner or whatever it is, right? Like people have lives outside of things. I do think if you're trying to make anything new or big or difficult, particularly new, you need to be in an office with people. You need to have those ideas flowing and bouncing off each other, be picking up on pieces of conversation. You know, Majda and Derek are talking about something in the office and Josh hears it and he goes, oh, hang on a minute, guys, like that's actually really interesting to this other thing we're talking about. And you get this kind of network effect of people being together. But when you're executing, I don't think you need to be in the office. So a lot of software engineers, like including software engineers on our team, like a big chunk of their time is just programming, right? And they need to be head down for 4, 8, 12 hours, whatever it is, to get something done. And they might be better off working from home. So our policy is we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office. The reason why we don't just do 3 random days is because the benefit is actually when people are in together, not just being in the office.
Yeah.
So we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Everybody's in. It's a bit of fun, and we work really closely together. And then Mondays and Fridays are flexible. So if you want to work from home, you can. But about half of us come in anyway. Because it's good fun in the offices.
Yeah, of course. No, and that makes sense. And especially from a creativity and brainstorming point of view, as you say, like trying to come up with the idea for the Apple iPhone if everyone was working remotely, like could that have been done? Fair enough when it comes to the executing and the selling of it. But the actual, just kind of cauldron of ideas that get brought into an office is so important.
For sure, yeah. And particularly at like a strategic level as well. Like Charlie and I have been working on doing our strategy sessions online, but like 99% of them we still do in person. Like I'll fly to London or Charlie will come back to Dublin and we'll work together because just the speed of communication and that feedback loop is completely different online.
Yeah. And obviously you've gone down that entrepreneurial route. What would you say to someone, say you a couple of years ago in Trinity Computer Science, they come to you, they say, I want to be an entrepreneur, what should I do next?
It depends on why they want to be an entrepreneur, right? This is the first question that I ask whenever, like, you know, people come and ask me for advice. The odd time I'm not the most sought after for advice, but I mentor a few people, and the first thing I ask is what they want to achieve, right? Because you could want to run, you know, a non-profit on the side of your life, and that's an entrepreneurial pursuit as well. And you've very different goals to, I'm going to be the next unicorn out of Ireland.
Yeah.
Right? So understanding what you want to achieve out of being an entrepreneur is the first step, and then trying to figure out, does the idea that you have line up with that, right? Like if you want to, for the rest of your life, have a normal full-time job and just take away at this thing on the side, you're probably not going to be a unicorn. But if you want to, you know, donate a chunk of money to charity every year in Ireland, and you're working on it 80 hours a week and growing this massive commercial base, that probably doesn't align either, right?
Yeah.
So understanding what you want and then what you want the business to be in order to fulfill that is probably the first step.
Yeah, looking at kind of the end goal and the mission and why you want to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
You obviously leaned on support, and most startup founders, when they're building a company, have Enterprise Ireland or even the Irish government to lean on. Do you feel like they're doing enough when it comes to helping startups getting up off the ground?
Yeah, enough is a tough one to quantify. I think that they do good stuff. I think that government supports, by definition, are kind of unfairly distributed, but not as a result of the governments, but just the way that they're structured. There needs to be some friction there to getting support from the government, because otherwise everybody just clambers in and everybody gets it. But there also needs to be avenues to do it. So if you spend the right amount of time and work closely with them, they can be incredibly supportive. And we've had great help from Enterprise Ireland over the years. But I think it's sort of something that's almost hard to access if you aren't aware of it and you don't go looking for it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of first-time founders who I would be mentoring wouldn't have any idea, and I'd be pointing them in the direction, going, at least look at the website, see what would be available for you, go have a conversation. So maybe they could be doing more of a campaign to get out there and just be more known that they're providing these supports.
Yeah.
But I think the support's really good.
Yeah, that's good. That was the next question. Obviously, Dave, shone a light on the IIS scheme and entrepreneur relief, but I was thinking, what more could they do, or have you seen it in different countries that they do just a bit more when it comes to helping out startups?
Yeah, I mean, there's helping out startups and there's helping out like founders and investors and entrepreneurs. So
Yeah.
entrepreneur relief is great, and its goal is to incentivize people to be entrepreneurs by giving them a tax break. And the same with EIS, like the goal is to encourage people to invest in companies that are high risk, but actually helping the startup themselves. I think they're doing a good job of it, but they could do more to be more well known. Like, more events in universities. There's really, really good entrepreneurship programs out of the universities, and Enterprise Ireland are kind of around, but there's no specific events for it. Nobody talking about here's exactly the process in order to get into the HBSU stream or the competitive start fund in Enterprise Ireland, or here's how to use your local enterprise office. Because the supports are there. And there's really good supports, but they're just not easily available, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just growing with time, I guess. When it comes to your own life experience, I see that you have, or you still do, you coach rugby, you did an internship at Workday. When you look at those little nuggets and what you've gained from there, have they been important to now being a founder of a startup?
Yeah, definitely. I think coaching was an interesting one because I was playing at the same time, and understanding the benefit of seeing both sides of the role. So like being a manager and somebody who's being managed, being an investor and somebody who owns a startup, understanding both of those perspectives is incredibly helpful. And the first taste of that, I suppose, I got was in coaching rugby. I mean, there's obviously leadership skills, management skills that come involved in any role like that, but I think the main thing was understanding the two sides of the coin in any interaction and trying to, at a minimum, put yourself in their shoes, but in best case, actually performing their role in some other capacity. And then Workday was great. Like, I mean, it's a great company. I really enjoyed working there. The people there were fantastic. I did 8 months in total as a software engineer intern, kind of progressing to being a software engineer in full by the end of it, or I thought so anyway. Maybe they didn't think so. But I think it showed to me what my life could be like as a software engineer in a big tech company that's growing and treating people well and pushing people hard. And I just thought that it wasn't for me at that point in time. So I think that really pushed me to go and do something else. Right. When I finished up at Workday, I hadn't met the guys at events yet. I hadn't, I'd been ticking around on a couple of entrepreneurial ideas, but nothing majorly. And I think that gave me a bit of impetus to go and pursue something other than just going straight into a software engineering job and pursuing a career that way.
Oh, that's good. At least you got that insight and you got to know either if it is for you or it's not. But looking in the mirror now, when you look at yourself, like, what are you really good at?
What am I really good at?
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm really good at anything. I think that I'm good at being good enough at a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my role in the company. Like, finance, for example, no background in finance, but it's like, can I swear on podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we've obviously go fucking figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Which is just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I know what the outcome needs to be, and go fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think I've had to get pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Strategy for a business. I didn't do a business degree. I've never done business at any level. I didn't even do it in school. And figuring that out has been super interesting and exciting. Figuring out how to manage tech teams, figuring out how to build product, talk to customers, sell. So I'm not really good at anything.
Yeah.
But I'm good enough at enough things.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of where it is. Yeah.
Spinning plates, really, and try not to let them fall. But what would you say you're bad at?
What am I bad at? A lot of things. I think I'm bad at understanding priorities outside of my own. I think being a bit more measured in how I look at what's happening outside of my 3 priorities. I used to be quite bad at prioritizing. Whereas now I write down like my 3 things I need to get done this quarter, and they sit on my desk and stare at me every morning. And I just do everything I can to get to them. But you need to be aware that other people have their 3 priorities, and they're valuable and important and need to happen in the business as well. So I think that's something that I could work on. I think I'm bad at switching off as well. I'm bad at, bad for lying awake at night and thinking about the business.
Yeah.
That's not always, it's kind of, it's glorified a bit, like the grind sort of stuff, but I don't actually think that it's conducive to success.
Yeah.
I think cycles are important in your day, in your week, and like taking time away from it to have it take over in the background is really important. And I haven't been fantastic at that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's such a long list.
Yeah.
Keep going, John.
It must be difficult. I'm trying to think, because social media plays such an important role, especially when it comes to balance insights and big consumer brands. So it must be difficult when you're up at night and you've got a screen staring you in the face and you're looking at different brands and engagement and you're thinking what bounce could do better.
Yeah, for sure. I think because we work with large consumer-facing brands and we work with technology, everything that I see is large consumer-facing brands and technology.
Yeah.
Like I'm on Twitter now, and like I've been all over the AI stuff because we're leveraging AI and using it as a core function within our business. I need to know everything about it, but every new thing that comes out, I'm like, shit, how can we use that?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like I'm texting Josh and Brandon, and they're texting me more so at like 2:00 in the morning, being like, "Did you see Elon Musk tweeted this thing about Grok? Like, do you think we could do something with that?" Yeah. So it's definitely hard to switch off. I mean, I love my work and I love what we do at Bounce. I love the team. It's fantastic. But I think I would be better at my job if I switched off a bit more.
Yeah, if you could kind of designate those days or that time or put that phone in the drawer and yeah,
exactly. Like I do designate the days and the time and stuff like that, but it's just always kind of taken away there,
Yeah. Well, that is the life of a startup founder. When it comes to being a startup founder, being so young, you've got to pitch, you've got to stand in front of angel investors, maybe eventually speak to VCs, or you already have, talk to the board. Does imposter syndrome, does that ever creep in?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, constantly. I think everybody has it. I think you'd have to be incredibly narcissistic to never doubt yourself. It's really important to doubt yourself constantly as a founder, because if you start believing you're all bullshit, then you're really screwed. Right? It's one thing to be able to pitch a client or, even pitch an investor on your vision. But if you believe every word that you ever say or every positive thought that you ever have about the business and never question them, then you start to get into trouble. So I think imposter syndrome plays a role. It's useful in some ways. It's kind of relative in others. What I try to do when I feel a wave of it is go back to first principles and just understand, what am I trying to achieve here? What have I achieved? And how do I get from where I am to there? And can I see the steps to get there? And do I feel comfortable that I can at least, give a really good attempt at those things and reasonable attempt? And once I do that, then I start to feel more comfortable and I go, okay, I know how to get to where I want to be. I might fail at it, I might succeed at it, but I'm not just completely.
Yeah. Can you pinpoint or think of the last time you really thought, geez, I'm out of my depth here with this meeting tomorrow, but then by the end of it, you're like, hey, that was fine? Yeah,
it's been a long time. I think you have so many of them as a startup founder that you just get used to that feeling and it goes away a bit. I more have imposter syndrome moments when I'm like lying awake at night. Sort of way, rather than in a pitch or in a meeting. I think some of our early investor pitches for some of our early rounds, I remember like doing like tech due diligence and stuff like that, and I didn't know at the time like what the standard was or like where the bar was. So for me to know, I now know that we were actually in really good shape at the time, which is great in hindsight. But I think when you don't know where the standard is, that's when you really start to feel it, because you can assume that it's incredibly high and you're nowhere near it. Or if you're super narcissistic, I suppose you could assume that you're way above it. But I think most people are my best.
Yeah. When it comes to then building Bounce, hiring, what do you look for in people that you're hiring, that you're investing in, that you want to bring on the journey?
Yeah, it depends role to role, right? I think for people who are bringing on at a senior level, they have to be brought in on the vision and have an understanding of taking control of uncontrollables or taking responsibility for uncontrollables. Like, what you realize as you get more senior in a business is, if you have exposure to Forex, right, is a really simple example, right? Like, you're doing a lot of business in Ireland and in Lisbon, right? And if you were doing business in the UK, if you've a lot of revenue on contracts coming from the UK and the pound goes to shit against the euro, you're out a lot of money. It's not your fault, but you have to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
So with senior people, I'm looking for, do they understand that if something goes sideways, even if they couldn't control it, they have to own that and take responsibility for it? That's a really big thing. So I think when you're more junior in your roles, right, things outside of your control are outside of your responsibility. But as you get more senior, the more things that are outside of your control become your responsibility.
Yeah.
It's about, okay, how do I understand what the big risk factors are that are outside of my control, and how do I mitigate for those things? And, hedging would be the Forex one, right? But that's true of everything you do. Like, if you have somebody and they're managing a team, showing that they understand that if somebody on their team isn't performing, they're not performing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Things like that.
So it's the accountability piece and just mitigating that risk.
Yeah, I talk about it like ultimate ownership, which is what Derek would tell me is a metaphorical truth. Derek was our first hire, mate of mine from college. So a metaphorical truth is something that isn't necessarily true, but is useful to believe is true. And ultimate ownership is, if I can have impact on the outcome, I'm responsible for the outcome. It doesn't matter how small that impact is. I'm responsible for the outcome. So having people who are able to think in that way, it doesn't mean you have to take responsibility for absolutely everything and beat yourself up if something doesn't work out, but just immediately looking at it from what could you have done and what should you have done, as opposed to, this thing was outside of my control and, it's nothing to do with me now.
Pass the buck, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you say in terms of business? What's the best piece of advice that someone has given you?
Understand what you want is definitely the best piece of advice that I've been given, and what I try to pass on now, which is, like, make sure that everything you're doing lines up to your goals, right? So from a business perspective, that's your business's overall goal, your vision, your North Star. That's what people talk about a lot, but it kind of can get lost in the weeds. Tying everything back to that North Star is incredibly important, because if you're not working towards a North Star, like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of way. And then personally ensuring that your business or your job or your career or what you're doing day to day lines up with your North Star. And I talk about the North Star being both short term and long term. So long term is like, what do I want to be doing? What do I want my life to be like in 10 years time?
Yeah.
But short term is, day to day, how do I want my days to look like? Do I want to be working 80 hours a week, or do I want to be working 10 hours a week?
Yeah.
And there's trade-offs with these things, right? You're trading off the long-term, if you want to have loads of money, having loads of money, if you're with the short term of, like, if you want to only work 10 hours a week, those two things might not line up. But at least making active decisions about those things is incredibly important personally. And then from a business standpoint, just aligning with that North Star. If you're not working towards it, what are you doing?
Yeah, of course. And in terms of even business advice, but the Irish startup ecosystem, there's lots of startups out there, and you meet with other founders and speak to them. How important, how helpful is that to you guys?
Yeah, it's super helpful. I think from a personal standpoint, meeting with other founders is really helpful because they understand, right? It's a very different career path to most people, and I've got incredibly good friends who I'm really close with, and I mean, I don't understand their jobs either, right? But they just don't understand what's going on for me. They try, and they, like, they're supportive and stuff. So being able to talk to somebody about the challenges that are unique to being a founder, and understanding that they're not just you, it's, every founder goes through them.
Yeah.
It's really helpful. From a business standpoint, going out and understanding what's happening is really helpful. It can be as simple as, you guys are working with this type of customer. How did you manage to get into them? Or you guys worked with this specific VC before. What do they like to work with? Or, you've hired a chief commercial officer recently. How did you do that? What was good? What was bad? Being able to learn from other people as well.
Yeah.
Helpful.
Yeah. It's an interesting point, like in terms of your own family or parents or friends, like, do they understand what you're doing?
Yeah, I think so. They have an idea. Like, sure, me 2 years ago wouldn't have been able to understand what I'm doing now as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that they're not incredibly intelligent, caring, like
Yeah.
conscious people. It's just it's the sort of thing that you can only understand if you're doing. So yeah, I think my parents broadly get it. Like both of them were entrepreneurial in their own right. So they have an idea about it, but and then my friends, I do and don't. Like, I got one friend who's like very business minded, and he probably gets it the most.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of friends who were more technical, and they probably get the tech more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think people understand different parts of it in different ways.
Yeah. So you're confident that your parents could give the elevator pitch on Bounce Insights?
Yeah. No, more than likely not. They give it a good shot.
Yeah. They do their best.
Yeah.
What is can you, even at this moment in time, what the end goal is for Bounce Insights?
Yeah, we want to transform how brands make decisions. That's our big thing. So every decision that's made, important decision that's made in consumer-facing brands, is backed up by the right research in a timely manner. So when you're making a decision about, okay, which market should we enter, what new products should we launch, what should the packaging look like for this, what should we be pricing this at, you're basing those decisions on the best available data and prediction methodologies as opposed to gut feel. And right now, a lot of it has to be gut feel because of cost, right? It's too expensive to run. Time from people, right? They don't have the hours in the day, but also turnaround time. So they can't get the data fast enough to be able to support the decision. So if we can resolve all three of them, I mean, I think it'll transform the industry and consumer-facing brands on the whole.
Very good. And can you tell us a bit about Bounce AI Insights, is it?
Yeah, for sure. So we just launched it officially a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we've been working on it. We were co-creating with Diageo on this one, which was great. Basically, it takes in the primary data set from a research project, so a survey, for example, and it takes the business problem that the customer had. So like we were talking about before, how should I be pricing Coke Zero in Tesco?
Yeah.
And it'll crunch all of the data and then answer that business question, both at an executive summary level and then on a question by question level as well.
Oh, really?
So all automatically with AI, generated specifically for your purposes, and then 15 minutes as opposed to 2 weeks of junior executive crunching the numbers and coming back to you with answers. And the next step, which is going live before Christmas, is actually an AI chatbot to be layered on top of it. So instead of just, here's your executive summary, you can actually interrogate the data. So
very good.
What? I don't know about you, but every time I get given a piece of insight or a piece of data, even if I've asked the person to go and get it, I have 15 questions that I actually hadn't thought of before. So being able to actually ask those questions of the data in real time.
Yeah, get the answers back in real time is so important.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do the next 18 months look like for Bounce Insights?
Madness. No, a lot of growth. So we're going after the UK. We're established there now. We have a couple of contracts, which is great. A couple of key hires to come in, and then the US is the next step. I mean, it's the biggest market in the world for market research, for consumer-facing brands, and we definitely think we can make an impact there.
Yeah, great confidence. And with this podcast, I usually do a couple of quick-fire questions and wrap it up and send you on your way. So I'll kick off with the first one. Something you wish you did earlier on at Bounce Insights?
Talk to customers, listen to customers.
Yeah. What was it? Was it just build?
Yeah, for sure. We listened a little bit and then we built a lot of stuff, but constantly interacting with customers. Like, if I could, I would have Hans Ahan, who's, a global insights person in Diageo, like, sit in my office and be like, that's stupid. Don't fucking do that. Like, do this. Oh, that bit's really interesting. It's like, oh, that thing that we were going to throw away. It's like, yeah, do that instead. If you can get that close feedback loop, it just solves so many problems.
Yeah, very good. The most important risk you took and why?
Starting a company, I think, not taking a job. I mean, I didn't pay myself for 18 months, which is definitely a risk, but I wouldn't be here with it.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
Who is your biggest inspiration?
Probably my mom. She's an absolute legend.
Yeah.
She was, she did one of the first ever computer science courses in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Out in Cork. Had a phenomenal career, and then elected to give it up to look after myself and my brother. Just completely selfless, active decision making, I think, is the most impressive piece in that. Like, there was a lot of pressures pulling her in different ways, but her deciding actively that what she wanted to do with her life, kind of that North Star of where do I want my life to be in 10 years,
Yeah,
15 years,
yeah.
and then the day to day, what do I want my life to be day to day. So yeah, she's probably my biggest inspiration.
Very good. I'll take that as a nomination then to get her on the podcast next.
Thanks.
We'll read it out.
You can ask her the elevator pitch and see what.
See how she gets on. If you could read one book every year or just reread a book, what book would it be?
For personal or for
Any book or self-improvement, business, whatever.
Yeah, I think Managing Humans
Mm-hmm.
really good for just working with people, both as a manager and as like somebody being managed. I think it has stories in it that kind of constantly crop up throughout your life and your career. So I think that'd be a really good one.
Very good. All right. Well, look, Ronan, thanks for coming on the podcast. Great having you, and it'll be great standing on the sidelines and watching the journey of Bounce Insights. So thanks once again.
Yeah.
Cheers.